Welcome, everybody. This is our Zoom meeting for November 2020. My name is Tom Pompey. I'm a licensed three-star Pirelli professional, and I'm super excited to get this one started because we have three topics tonight, and they all kind of line up with each other, and I think you'll see how that goes. The topic is feel for, feel with your horse. And I've heard some really famous horsemen talk about that. And I saw a really great example of that when we were at our clinic at East Fork, Tennessee. Our co-instructor, Robin Harris, was doing a demonstration. And I was just like, I really saw her feeling of the horse first, feeling for the horse, and then feeling with the horse. And so I want to explain what that means and how that can change how you present yourself to your horse. And then the second topic is circle send geometry. And we've had some discussions with that, with what Pat Pirelli has been seeing as people send their horses out onto a circle. There's a very effective way to help that horse maintain gait, understand the request, and it's just a little bit of different geometry. I know some of you seen it, but we had a lesson on it recently, and a big aha happened when we looked at it from a different view. So I caught it on camera finally, so I want to share that today. And then lastly, there's been quite a few rescued racehorses in my world recently, and it's brought up, I see Diane smiling over there. Yeah, you're one of them, Diane. But it seems like this program is so good for that. And one of the highlights is helping a horse have emotional intelligence. And racehorses, more than others, especially ones that have been rescued, it seems like their initial training was all about running fast, right? And they learn a pattern of getting on adrenaline and running in fear and tension. And so then we try to unwind that. But it seems more important for a rescued horse that they begin to understand that not everything means, oh my God, you got to run or you got to dump the adrenaline. So that's kind of the theme of this. And before I finish that, though, quick commercial. Mike and I are getting ready to head to Florida. We're packing. We'll be leaving next week. And we're getting everything ready there. The clinics down in Florida are all set. There's 3 level 1 workshop days where it's a 1 day with a half-day workshop and then half-day of private lessons. That's level 1, 2. And then there's 3 level 3, 4 clinics with different topics. The first one's Liberty, and those are all happening down in Port Charlotte. And I see Marianne's on there somewhere. I thought I saw her face. Hi, Marianne. And lots more adding to that too. We've got great private lesson programs for sure down there as well. So you might really like that. The lesson packages really lead into a clinic, so that's really nice. And then if you're in Ohio, we're doing our horseless classroom back in March again. So Mike and I will be coming back up to Ohio for that. And then we will head over back to Florida until April. So there you go. That's all the commercials that I have. That just make sure that you are checking out Pirelli.com. They've just redone some of the website, and it's looking really good in that regard. So that's pretty neat. Excellent. Well, I think we can move forward. So any questions about old business or any things we hit last time? If you raise your hand, I will call on you if you want. Anything anybody wants to share? Okay, cool. So the first thing is feel of, feel for, feel with. So a lot of that gets very confusing because words are very confusing. So when you want to feel of a horse, you could kind of just say you're asking whether we have any connection or not. It's like a good analogy is if you picked up the phone and said, hey, hello, is anybody home? And the second part of that is feel for, which is where you start to ask something. And the best way to do that, and mentally that I've been told, is just have this question in your head. Hey, buddy, what would you think about, backing up, what would you think about moving your shoulder that way. What would you think about going faster, slowing down? So all of those are kind of a way to get you to feel for the horse, and then feel with the horses after they've done your suggestion. They kind of go together. So we just go together. So feel of, feel for, and feel with. Like, let's go together. We're with each other. So it's a really nice way to improve your timing and improve um, you're improving your, I'm sorry, I got to hit the admit button again. Thank you. Kind of improving what's going on with your feel. So if you ask Pat Pirelli about this, he's going to say feel, timing, balance. That those are all very, very important things. Feel, timing, and balance. They all come together. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over, if I can find it, to our, let's see if I can find our, there it is, more, make this the spotlight video. So that should now come in. If you were on the view where you can see speaker view, you'll see that should be primary now, that video. So let me hop over here. And the first thing I wanted to go is that feel of, feel for, feel with. So this is a lesson that we had just yesterday with a gal named Beth, and she's working with retired racehorses. She's got quite a few of them, actually. And she has been really quite good with this particular horse, Lynx, I believe is his name. And what I want you to do is kind of, she's going to do a transition here, if I recall. And put that on.
Transition when you're ready. So come out of neutral and feel for him.
So you can see right there, she brought herself out of neutral. If that makes any sense to you. I'm going to back that up a little bit because you can see her feel for the horse. You see her, that's in reverse motion now. She's neutral.
Feel for him.
And she even gave her rope a little wiggle and say, hey, dude, are we together?
Love him now, feel for him. Now with. Good, neutral. Nice.
Yeah, so now this is a horse that usually really gets on adrenaline. So it was really nice to see such a great downward transition. So that was pretty nice.
And let's bring him in. That was beautiful.
So I just want you to see that again. It seems like such a little deal, but it really does mean everything. Feel of, feel for, feel with.
Downward transition when you're ready. So come out of neutral and feel for him.
It's like, hello, are we together? His ears on her.
And now feel for him. Now with. Good, neutral.
And that spot right there, when she went to neutral, I'm not sure she recognized that he was about to go to neutral, but that was like a really sweet moment, right? That's a with kind of thing there. So that's feel of, feel for, feel with. So the next thing I wanted to show you was a circle send and that kind of that geometry. But before we do that, I'm going to click back over on me and ask if we have any other questions on that. Let's see where, I guess I can spotlight myself there. Oh, there I am. All right, let me put you back on gallery view. There's so many buttons on this thing, and we've got some new security features here that we're trying to sort out here. So I apologize for any of that noise. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll ask if you have any questions or you want to share something maybe resonated you with that feel of, feel for, feel with kind of thing. All right, cool. We will move to the next quick topic, which is the circle send. And the interesting thing about this is a whole bunch of people were asking me about this earlier, about whether you always send your horse this way or not. And you don't always do it this way. but it sure does work well when you do. So I want to show you the before shot first of this, and this is kind of what's going on with this horse. He's very kind of slow and dawdly and not responsive until you ask more of him. Then he explodes, and that's very typical of this racehorse issue, where he'll suddenly get on a ton of adrenaline and really get very flighty.
And come out of neutral and feel love. Connect first, then 4. Beautiful. So it looks very connected to you right now. Fix it. Fix it.
So there he goes.
You look like you're just going to shut down there. So don't like game over that.
So there's no,
yeah,
that's a really good example. There's kind of no shoulder control there, right? Did you see it? He's kind of just pushing into her a bit, not really listening. So there's like a request for shoulder, and he kind of does it a little bit, but not very much.
I only meant slow down, my friend. Good, now be happy.
So kind of a dawdling kind of, Pat Pirelli kind of says a lot of times he'll go, oh, all right, kind of that teenager kind of, all right, I'll kind of do it. And then when you ask him more, he'll get a little bit on the high side and get on adrenaline and then start racing around. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but let me show you this send idea if you haven't seen it yet, which really, really does tune up everything quite a lot. So here's a video of Beth, and this is a bit of a stretch, guys, I'm sorry, but there's the horse. I know there's no horse there. So that would be the horse. And the geometry of this is, if the horse is at 12 o'clock, we know we put our leg and our rope to 8 o'clock and send that way, right? Over there. But on this new way of sending, just to help horses, it's kind of an isolation. You actually walk out on that line. So you see that, walking out on the line. Do you see how Beth did a really good job of walking straight on the 8 o'clock line? She pointed her finger to it, she walked on it, and she's keeping her shoulders towards the imaginary horse. Now the next step of this is she's going to do it again, and she's going to swing her stick and string towards that. So there's the send. Beth is a little bit short of stature, so she was having trouble, like that stick goes past her. So she would do better with a kid stick, so she could windmill it right over that. So I want to show you one more little thing here before we show the better send on this. So if you look at this diagram on it, so you can choose yourself so you could vote yourself. Should Beth walk the blue line, the red line, or the yellow line if she's sending her horse to the left? Blue line, red line, yellow line. And yep, I think most people are getting it. And that is correct, the yellow line. So that is it. So now let's see this after the fact. And it's a really nice example of what happened. Now, Beth, between these two, Beth had done a few more of these to make sure that it was going well. So this is one of the better ones. And this is also one that also highlights what I think often happens with racehorses and horses that have fallen in love with getting on a lot of adrenaline. So there we go. So you can see a little bit of a flight response. And then the horse checks right on back in with Beth, which is really nice. And there they are feeling together again. Okay. So I wanted to show you that, and I know a lot of you have seen that, but boy, what a difference in how that horse was going and moving. So let me pop this back to gallery view again, and we'll answer some questions. Hold on a second. Got to make this back to me somehow. Spotlight video. Oh, there I am. I'm back. All right. So do you have any questions? So yeah, good question. Why did she send with so much energy? So the idea of that is she's just windmilling, and it's the horse's idea to just get out of that space. So it's not as much of a high energy as it is asking that horse to move out of that space and really get used to shoulders out. And it also, in terms of a horse understanding pressure, that there's sort of a huge kind of release with that also. So the shoulders going out, the geometry's working. And I've noticed, especially my horses too, when you go back to the regular way of sending, then they really seem to get it. Now you have to, the question was, why did she send with so much energy? So you want to use just, you don't want to like be overly energetic with it. It's just kind of like, I'm just doing my windmill here. And the attitude or the energy behind it is kind of like that, the fan. You ever, if anybody's raised boys, you get the fan going, so don't stick your finger in the fan. Oh, that was silly. I shouldn't have stuck my finger in there. So after a couple repetitions, the horse realizes, oh, I don't need to put my shoulder in the fan. I'm going to move it out the way. So that can fix a lot of things really fast. The thing that I noticed with our horses after we did this with some consistency, we would go to do our send, and all of a sudden the horse would just go whoosh, really athletic, and kind of fly into the wind on the circle game. And that was pretty cool, I thought. And I had noticed that about Pat's horses, and I didn't understand how he got that so well. So that was a really interesting thing. The question that came up at East Fork is, should we always send our horses that way? And it's I never say never, usually say usually, or never say always, or however that saying goes. But I think this is more of an isolation. You don't have to always do that, but it really is a good way to see what's happening with that. So Kristen had a question. Stella always checks in with me before I ask what's the best way to keep her circling me. So you'll notice with this stronger send that she will keep circling. And when you keep windmilling until the horse gets to behind you at 6 o'clock, then go neutral. And then and the other thing I would be concerned about is always when you're teaching a horse something or working on something, just pick one thing. So in this case, this is for the send to get a more shoulder yield on the send. It has the effect of helping maintain gait. But then when that's better, then when your send is better, then you can work on maintain gait. And if she checks in with you, then you can give her more information. Say, no, keep going. So you could come out of neutral and say, just keep going. And then that way she will continue to circle you. The other thing you can do also is do a swing of your carrot stick after that. So she doesn't maintain gait, swoop and swing from behind with your carrot stick toward her shoulder. That works out great. So maybe that would be a good one for our next little thing, our next little Zoom. Really good. Why did you I got a really good send following the 4 and 8 o'clock with the windmill. Yeah, so that does work really, really well, getting a super strong send. And I really like that. Yeah, I think I got all the questions there. Okay, good. Any questions on that? Any other questions? And I'm only going to call on people I know now. Good. Go out and try that with your horses. It's really quite nice. The one thing we did find with this particular horse is if this is the arena here, this outline of the box, I was going to 8 o'clock over here and I ran him right into the edge of the arena. And so he felt a squeeze between the arena wall and my windmill, and he couldn't go through there. And he kind of went, "Oh, I can't do that." And I realized, oh, I probably in the arena ought to leave more room so I don't run him into a wall on that circle. So I picked that up with this particular horse too. That was really sensitive. You want to have enough room so he doesn't feel squeezed against something. And then the other thing that we wanted to do with this particular horse, and I think all horses, is we don't want to be not afraid, but we don't want to get them thinking these 7 games are just like really boring. So part of it is, how do you be more progressive and ask a bit more, and get farther away, or ask for something faster or lighter or with an obstacle, or how do you get progressive? And the second thing is, how do you, especially with race horses now, help them with their emotional intelligence so that you can bring them up a bit and they can realize that it's just a request and that it's okay for the stick and string. And then they can get past that and get onto a spot where they're really enjoying dopamine instead of adrenaline. So what happens with this horse, and when I first met that horse, you couldn't touch him with the stick and string. He would just go bananas. And you could do all kinds of friendly games, and that was good, and he'd get used to it. Until the one time you went to pressure with that stick and string, and he would go bananas again and just really get hyped on adrenaline. He didn't see that that could be a tool for an extension of pressure. He only saw it as like something to fly against and something to really brace against. So the way we helped him was to show him that, yes, it is equal parts stick and string. The stick part of it is okay, and it's followed up with the carrot part of it, the friendly game. So we had to, with that horse, we had to do 20% pressure stuff, 80% friendly stuff for a while. And then the more we could get him to understand that, he still would get flighty, and he still does get a little flighty, but it's less. He falls back on, oh, I can get the partnership side, and he gets through it. And then you saw him at the end of that circle game on that video. He lowered his head. He was like, oh, I love this. And right after that, he stood there and just went into heaven with that dopamine, no adrenaline anymore. And we really let him soak that up. So the next session he comes out, how did I get to that feeling that felt so good instead of that flighty? I liken it to a tunnel. Like a horse like that, if you're asking some things and they get all flighty, yes, you have to help them not go there, but at the same time, you have to have that expectation. So what you do is you say, dude, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's that feel with. So as I feel for you, feel of you, right? Feel for you, and it's all flighty and all that. I want to show you that I'm going to think like a horse, and I'm going to be the horse leader and get you through that. So I might make it easier for him to find a release, or I might, instead of asking for, I just don't want to overdo it. I want to make sure he's successful. I want to make the horse successful. And as much of that as we can do, the better connections that happen about dopamine. So dopamine, if you don't know, is the chemical that is good feeling. So like after you've run a race, or you've done something athletic, or you've got a good night's rest, that's dopamine. And adrenaline is almost, I don't want to say it's the opposite, but adrenaline's the fight or flight chemical. And especially if horses have gotten into that routine, that whenever they're pressured, they get on adrenaline, that becomes kind of their go-to. I think Carol Coppinger was the first one I heard say this. She said, that horse is an adrenaline junkie, because they've just gotten so used to falling to that pattern of, get on adrenaline. And then that doesn't make for a great partnership. So you can't erase that. You just can't. It's a strong connection in a horse's head. But you can get other connections and other learning going that could eventually even be stronger than that. But you can't erase that. without surgery, brain surgery. But you can make other connections so strong that the horse goes on to those. And that's what's happening with that horse in that video. He's found enough times where he's gotten through that wall of adrenaline and went, oh, Beth is so good a leader that I'm going to just connect with her and I feel safe. Oh, and if they can get more of those experiences, then they'll fall to that quicker. So that's what I wanted to share with you about those patterns that can happen with those racehorses. Sometimes people call it developing emotional intelligence. Sometimes people call it being progressive. I like to think of it as, I don't want my horse to think that that's the answer, that race off of adrenaline. So I'll help him process the adrenaline, and that usually is moving their feet. What we did when that horse does get on adrenaline, I'm sorry, the video, I didn't get over to hit the video on it, but we had him move on a big circle, like 5 laps, like really, really moving, and then let him relax until he had some rhythm and connection and relaxation, then brought him in. And he was like, wow, I got rid of the adrenaline. And now I like the partnership side of me. So that can be super helpful too for that. So you guys that have dealt with some horses that are adrenaline junkies, what other strategies would you recommend? And oh, Cheryl said that's a good one. Figure eight and falling leaf is my go-to. Yeah, that's a good one because it has lots of yields. And just be careful on your figure eight that you're not shutting down the front. So a horse that gets on adrenaline, if you try to close off the front in any way, that usually makes it worse. So sometimes, like on a figure eight, when you're doing that change of direction, you don't want them coming at you a million miles an hour, right? So you might have to shake your rope or put up a block, or so that's my only caution on figure eight. Falling leaf is also great as long as you're not shutting the front end down. If you feel like you have to shut the front end down, you probably need to send that horse on a big circle and help him with that adrenaline first. But so patterns, really what you're bringing up are patterns, because horses love patterns. And that helps a lot too. So figure eight, falling leaf, circle game. Another good one is half circle, like you could put your back to a fence and hopefully you're on a long line and send them a big half circle when their nose hits the fence, then do a change of direction. That way it's not you shutting down the front end. That's a nice, safe way to help deal with some adrenaline. You know, what taught me first about adrenaline was middle school kids. Because if you know middle school kids, you know there's X amount of energy, right? And it's got to go somewhere. And when I first heard that with horses, and I started applying it to middle school kids and behavior, because if you shut down the energy, it's going to come out in other ways. But if you redirect the energy and kind of, you know, think like a keto master or something like that, and just redirect that energy somewhere, it keeps the relationship. So it's also saying, you know, instead of don't do that, it's like, hey, why don't you take that exuberance and you know, go clean out the desk or something, or you know, find some way to kind of direct that around. So the same way with horses, it's like you want to manage that X amount of energy in a constructive way. And somebody said rock slide helps. It sure does. And rock slide helps a lot because it gets them to. It's a really good exercise if you are saying, hey, you better pay more attention to what I'm asking than whatever's distracting you. But again, you don't want them to have be totally on adrenaline for that, because if you ask a horse to back up that's on an adrenaline thing, they're going to come up. So you want to get that. Nancy asked, any thoughts for the horse getting his foot over the rope? Oh yeah. Spin and burn, turn and burn. Yep, LBE, LBI. Yeah, we have a horse like that, Nancy. Managing your rope during that, I know that's the challenge, is to manage the rope so that the belly doesn't get so much on the ground that they do step over. But probably the reason they're stepping over is they're not yielding their shoulder. They're probably dropping their shoulder in, which makes them then step on the rope. So two things there: tune up the shoulders with that circle send helps a lot. The other thing that helps, Nancy, is standing right in front of him and offering a little feel on that rope to the side and then reinforcing with the stick. It's called shoulder over. I think you know it. If you've ever studied with Carol Coppinger or me, I've shown it in a lot of clinics, and so has she, where it kind of gets them really understanding. Just follow that feel over. And I'm glad you said that, Nancy, because we didn't talk about enough that when you do send a horse on the circle game, there is a porcupine game there. So you should take the slack out of the rope if you're online. You'll see, and it's counterintuitive, I know, because you want to lead to liberty, right? So you want to be able to go with no rope, and maybe you want to test your liberty with the belly of the rope on the ground and do a send with the belly of the rope down. But make sure your horse can really follow that feel too. So you take up the slack when you send to 8 o'clock. So they really feel that and come off of that porcupine pressure, because the circle send is a combination of porcupine and drive. And you'll see they'll get it like in a second, because they're really reading your body language more than anything. So they'll really get that. And then when you test it again at Liberty or online leading to Liberty, you're going to get a much better circle send response for having done that. I've been circling close to a hill. Excellent, Susan. And we'll move him so he has to think about going up and down the hill. Yeah, hills are awesome for that. And it helps the horse balance and rebalance, and it's really good. There's a really nice article called Hill Therapy. And if anybody's interested in it, like shoot me a note or an email and I'll send it to you. Linda Pirelli wrote it. And it has to do with developing a horse's top line, but it works really well with a hill. And if you don't have a hill, you can use barrels and have the horse send over the barrels. So that's also super, super helpful. Good. Any other questions? Yeah, I don't know if you recall, CW has a way of throwing his leg up and over the rope. Doesn't matter how high I'm holding the line. Yeah, back. I'm assuming it's the front leg, in a little kick out. So backing him a little bit more, and then, as I said, take the slack off that rope. And I bet, yep, it's like a high step. Yep. I bet that if the shoulders were really under control, positive control, which means you're not making him move the shoulder. He's deciding to move his shoulder out. Once you get that kind of yield going and that kind of width on the shoulders, even if he were to get exuberant and strike out a little bit, his body will be shaped now this way, and he'll be moving away from that rope. So that's kind of a fun. And then Nancy said, yeah, it's most fun on change of direction. Exactly. Yep. And that's the one too, where you may need to comb your rope to get the slack out of it on that change. The real answer though is positive shoulder control. And when a horse is truly mentally yielding their shoulders, especially left brain horses, but really all horses, if they're truly yielding mentally, that's when the calmness sets in. Like at first couple of videos there, that horse wasn't yielding mentally. He was just kind of reacting, and it got better and better as the lesson went on. And finally, he kind of did a really nice yield, and it was like, whoa, that was great. And he seemed to understand it. It was like, wow, that's really good. That's something we can build on now. But it's more than just a physical thing, guys. It's the physical system of the horse, yes, but the mental and the emotional system. So if I'm really yielding on those changes of direction too, it really tunes it up. So if I'm having trouble with my change of direction, I'm going to go back to this send with the windmill idea and really make sure that those shoulders get into the wind. And so if this is a circle here, and I'm coming around here for a change of direction, that's me, and I back up here and the horse comes in here. A lot of horses I'm seeing are changing direction like that. When they come around here, there's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. When they come around here, they should head back there and up around like a little teardrop. And that's where your shoulder control really, really shines. Excellent questions. Here's another little tip on your change of direction. After this, when the horse comes in at 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock for the change of direction, push the shoulder over, right? And yield the shoulder on the change. But then as you walk back to the nose, to the center of the circle, use your stick and string and push the nose of the horse back to the circle. So they bring their shoulder in and then take their nose out and get back out onto the circle. So if you put a little bit of energy toward after the shoulders go on the change of direction, a little bit of energy towards the nose, that really sets their shoulder up for a much better change of direction. And you'll see the flying change will just pop then when the nose goes back. So if you're somewhere in level 3, you want to do simple changes, but if your goals are to get some level 4 in, that you're going to need that flying change, and that getting that nose back out on the circle after the shoulders go makes a big, huge change on that. Good. What was the exercise we were doing? Airplane wing. Oh yeah, I can't for the life of me remember it. That's a good one. I got to get my trusty horse. Excuse me a second. All right. Got my trusty horse out here. So we were talking about, and Pat came up with this, and I thought it was just brilliant. So when you're talking to the hindquarter, you want to be up by the horse's shoulder and standing about that far away from the shoulder. So I don't know how I actually should hold it. Let me hold it this way. There we go. So if you're standing right here and you're talking to the hindquarter, it's really hard for your focus to get over there. Or if you're out here in front of the horse, it's really hard to aim your focus on the hindquarter. So if you stand here and step out to about here and then look at the hindquarter, your energy and your focus is going right on that hindquarter, and your horse will be able to turn and face you. Let me back up a little bit so you can see that. So if this is you, this little Kleenex piece is you. And if you're here, you step out on the airplane wing. So if there's an airplane wing on this side of the horse and on that side of the horse. So friendly game, step out, put your focus there on the hindquarter. Look, lift, swing, touch. And in a perfect world, the horse yields their hindquarter and turns and faces you. Their head has enough room to come through just to turn and face you. If they drift forward, you would stay out on the airplane wing. So a lot of horses, they'll back up while you're doing that. You just keep walking with them. Keep at it until that head turns all the way. There's the right answer. Hey Mike, we should take an aerial view of me doing that with Peaches. She's really good at her hindquarters. She used to have no hindquarters, but she's really good at it. She's so compact that it makes it easy to see her head come through. So we should get the camera up on the top of the hayloft and like take it from down below and see if you can see if you're this far away, the horse has that angle to come right through. That's a really good idea. So that was the airplane wings. It was just a hindquarter yield. Excellent. Any other questions? Well, very good. I'm looking for volunteers for the next Zoom, which will be December 10th. So if you want to do a video and send it in, or maybe during one of our lessons coming up, there's a couple lessons left here at H&P, but we're kind of fully booked right now. And then when I hit Florida, I think there'll be a bunch of lessons coming up there. So something always presents itself, so I'm not worried about it. But if you'd like to raise your hand, send me a short video, maybe something from the assessment checkoffs and things like that. And that's a good way to stay progressive and keep asking more and more of yourself and your horse, or just something you're having a little trouble with. It's a good way to get a free mini lesson from me if you get picked. Oh, I saw a lot of eyes go, ooh, maybe I'm going to do that. Excellent. All right, well, that should do it for today. So thank you very much. It's going to take me a couple days to get the recording of this onto the website because I have some editing to do. And so we will see you all next time if I don't see you sooner. So I think we should end with the Savvy clap. Thank you everybody for your patience. And here we go. Savvy. All right. Turn off the video. Pause, stop recording.